Good evening, dear members. Welcome to the session for internal audit on GST transactions. I welcome all the joinees over here. Thank you for taking out time and joining for this session. So, before we start, I would like to introduce CA Preeti Savla ma'am. She is our Central Council member and also the past president of our WIRC. So I'll just I'll just pass on the mic to Preeti Savla ma'am so she can throw insights for the session and guide everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj, and hello, everyone. Hope everyone is fine, and welcome to our seventh webinar of this year on internal audits on GST transactions. And welcome all of you. And we have with us CAK Urdedia, who is expert in GST specific. And we thought that this is very, very important session to take on internal audits, internal controls, and the reviews on GST transaction, because GST is giving the highest revenue for the nation, and about 2 lakhs crores, and everyone is practicing in GST, and the internal controls are very important, and a lot can be learned so that we can also flourish how the GST is flourishing. Our practice can also flourish. So, welcome all of you, and I'm sure Keul will do an excellent justice to this topic. My dear friend Pankaj is there to moderate the session and taking out time along with Amish for everyone to moderate this session. And Aarti, our secretariat, is working very hard because simultaneously lot of things are going along with this webinars, various certificate courses, standards review and all is going on. Friends, we have our chairman C. Prakash Sharma, who is also guiding us in all our endeavor. It is our endeavor to serve all these initiatives for the betterment of our members, friends, all my dear participants. I am sure these webinars will really serve the great value add to all of you. Again, we are also putting these webinars on our website and our portal, so anytime you can go through this webinar series. Friends, with this word, I welcome all of you and wish all of you a very happy learnings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words, ma'am. We are indeed very grateful to have you with us. So, going ahead, I would like to introduce CA Keyur Dedia, sir. I would just share a few words for him. He is qualified from as a Bachelor of Commerce from Pune University in 2004. He became a fellow member of ICI in November 2005. He is also qualified for DISA of ICI in December 2008. He is a practicing CA for 18 years and a partner of the firm Messrs. Kavna and Company, Chartered Accountants, having its head office at Jalna and also branches at Akola, Nagpur, Yavatmal, and Aurangabad. He was the executive committee member of Akola branch of WIRC of ICI for the term 2019-22. He also served as the chairman of Akola branch of WIRC for the term 21-22. During his tenure, he was awarded as the second best branch award by the WIRC. Also, their team inaugurated first ever ICI mark all over India by joining hands with Honorable Chairman CA Nihar sir. He was the president for the term 21-22. Also, he's a faculty at Rathi Career Forum Akola for the subject of indirect taxes. He's also faculty for ITT batches at Akola branch. He also secured fifth rank in his HSC examination at Amravati University. His area of practice is specialization in indirect taxes of GST and RERA, and he has also handled bank audits for various public sector, urban, and multi-state cooperative banks in different capacities. So, as far as his professional activities are concerned, he has served as vice president and treasurer for Akola branch of WIRC for 2021, and also as a Vikasa chairman for Akola branch of Vikasa during the same period. He has also served as secretary and treasurer for Akola branch for the tenure 2019 to 20. He has been speaker at various seminars conducted by IIRC, and he is also an empaneled faculty for GST by the ICI. So, with these massive achievements, I welcome Deria sir. Thank you, sir, for taking out time and agreeing to guide us for GST transaction where internal audit comes into place. So, yes, just I want to give insight about today's session where why internal audits are important for GST transactions. So before your tax audit commences, I guess every company should work for their, if their turnover are reconciled with the books, the GST returns are in reconciliation with the books, ITC is matching with 2A, and whatever the discrepancies are there, like some vendors have not filed the return because of which credit is not reflecting, so the follow up with them, so everything is reconciled so that you don't receive the notice after filing of GSTR 9 and then it takes time, or just to save yourself from the due date, missing out the due date. So internal audit is very important to reconcile your books with GST transactions. So that's what we will learn today. So over to you, Deria sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pankaj sir. At the outset, I would like to thank Prakash Sharma sir, Chairman of the Board of Internal Audit, Preeti Savla madam, Vice Chairperson of the Board of Internal Audit, Aarti Bansal madam, and all Pankaj sir, Amish sir, and all the team members for giving me this opportunity to present my views on the topic internal audit related points for the GST related transactions. So, thank you first. Now, today's topic interested to me is about the internal audit on GST related transactions. Can I share the screen right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, please. Yes, please. Done,
So,
sir.
topic interested to me is this internal audit for GST related transactions. Now, how internal audit is important for GST? We all are doing in the field of auditing, and one is involved into the statutory audit part, some is involved into taxation part, or some are purely specializing into internal audits. But it's a vast scope whereby internal audits are being covered. It may be from the financial perspective, from the processing perspective, or various other topics for internal auditing content. But then, when we are doing for the financial aspect part, then some points to be taken care for as a part of internal auditor with related to the GST transactions, so that this perspective will help us to clean out all the queries whatever are before us, whatever type of the reconciliations we need to do, and then we can proceed ahead and give our comments, or we can get them rectified before the statutory auditor gives his report, or before the tax auditor completes the tax audit, and finally the GST auditor gets the GST 9(9)(c) done. So all these things are into lined up, but the very first initial role comes to the internal auditor, and hence today we are with this particular topic of internal audit on GST related transactions. In this topic today, we are going to cover just a brief about the internal audit as I discussed right now. Some of the documentation that we need to take care for before we get the audit done. Outward supply and its reconciliation, then input tax credit under GST. Along with that, input tax credit would be bifurcated into the revenue and the capital expenditures, eligible and the ineligible credits, block credits, etc. Then some RCM related transactions, and finally we'll just have a refresh and the summary part of the entire discussion what we can have, and then we'll have definitely the query session. But I will again request, if someone has a query, sir, how the query session at the end or ongoing process, we can have it. So I'll proceed ahead.
Sir,
The very
queries will
first
be
part,
handled
internal
at the
audit.
end of the session.
Okay. इंटरनल ऑडिट हमें हेल्प कर रहा है, बेसिकली वी ऑल आर अवेयर ऑफ इट कि इंटरनल ऑडिट क्या मदद करता है, तो हमें But when it comes to the next part, that finally internal audit अगर internal controls पे आता है तो कौन से controls? So here we are able to get the compliances of the various laws and regulations that are applicable to us. तो अभी हम क्योंकि जीएसटी की बात कर रहे हैं इसलिए जीएसटी के कंप्लायंसेस जीएसटी के अदर जो रिपोर्टिंग है वो टाइम सर हो रही है या नहीं हो रही है वी कैन हैव अ go through with these and we can ensure that everything is done properly. Next, we are able to maintain the accurate and the timely financial reporting to the statutory and the tax auditors. And for all this reporting, the best part would be that we would be getting all the data collected in a timely manner. Now, frequency of this internal audit, if we talk about, so it all depends upon the type of the organization for which we are doing the internal audits. So it may be on a daily basis. There may be some internal audit teams who are working on this particular part, or weekly, or monthly, or annual basis. It all depends upon, as I said, the type of the organization and the requirement. Further, internal audit will help us to give some value-added services to the board of the directors and the management to get them an idea about what are the various flaws that are there into the accounting part or into the compliances part and get it corrected so that the external auditor is free of all those things. And the last part, what I can say is it is useful to the management itself to get improved their operations, the processes, the policies of the companies wherever needed. So this is where internal audit helps us. As a summary, what I can say. Coming on to the documentation part, the second content that we have for this particular topic. So documentation, we all are aware of it that whatever the audit we are doing, SA 230 has very clearly dealt with documentation. And it says that whatever the audit we are doing out, for that, the record of the audit procedures, we should have it. The things that we have performed, the conclusions that we are framing, and for framing that conclusion, the evidences that we have. All things should be with us. The working papers should be with us, and these will help us further to give some answers if needed. So documentation plays an important role. Uh, Apart from the documentation that is for the audit, naturally, when we are going to conduct the audit, we will ask our necessary client to provide us the documentation for all the transactions that are being done. Now, those transactions, the documentation will be there. It might be into the physical format or the electronic format, and that may be containing the records that the audit documentation we needed. Sometimes we may need a third party confirmations also. So that will be also part of the documentation. And all these paperwork, physical or the electronic format, will help us to check the genuineness of the transaction. Nowadays, it has become a very important thing to even verify the genuineness of the transaction because many a times we are listening and coming to the news is coming that ABC person is being caught for the fake transactions or the dealer is being reported as a fake dealer or a non-genuine taxpayer. So genuineness has to be verified. The details about the supplier or the customer needs to be verified in terms of the GST part. I can say the audit trail will be there available, which is now important in case of the ROC reportings also. So all these things, documentation is going to help. So what type of documents would be there? So naturally, as a traditional practice, we can say that we have the sale bills, the purchase orders, the invoices, the consignment notes, the various vouchers, the registers, whatever the documents in the soft copy format, uh, transfer documents, stock transfer documents, or something like that. Everything would form a part of documentation on the basis of which we are going to do our audit. We are going to frame our conclusions. So these will be part of documentation, and everything is going to help us for framing our GST related points. Going ahead with the next part, now, the further session, our discussion, I have covered it into three parts. One is the outward supply and its reconciliation, various types of contents that we have to look into the outward supply while we are doing our internal audit. Then would be the inward supply, that is the ITC related perspective, and the topic relating to the RCM. So, initially, first we would be seeing outward supply and its reconciliation. We all are aware of it now. It's almost 7 years down the line, we are going to complete the implementation of the GST, goods and service tax. So, what outward supply plays an important role. Everyone takes care that it says ITC मैच हुआ कि नहीं वो देख लो, बट शुरुआत अगर हम बात करें तो इवन हमें आउटवर्ड सप्लाई को देखना बहुत जरूरी है. And before we go ahead with these things, the very basic part that one should take care as an internal auditor is that first he has to understand the nature of the transactions that are being done by the client, what type of organization it is involved, whether it is a manufacturing sector or a service sector, what type, first the type of a product that is being manufactured, and for the manufacturing or any type of a trading or service sector part, the process flow that is available into that organization or the process that is being followed, right from the input of the goods till the output of the goods, and then its accounting and the reporting part. So everything has to be first understood. एक बार अगर ये प्रोसेस आपको समझ जाता है तो देन इट इज वेरी इजी फॉर यू टू गेट द वर्क and understand how the billing would be done or how the accounting would be done. So all these understandings of the goods and services are being done. Now, on the basis of this, definitely we would be identifying what was the turnover of the client, that is the aggregate turnover of the client the preceding year. And as per the GST norms, then whether the client is following on a basis of quarterly filings, that is QRMP, quarterly return monthly payment system, or he has opted for a monthly filing of returns. We all are aware of that. Once the turnover exceeds 5 crore rupees, everyone is covered in a monthly. Only those who are below 5 crore turnover are having this option to go for quarterly or monthly. So monthly filings, many people are following this thing. And once we have understood the filing of the returns, the periodicity, I would also ask every person or every auditor to see that the data that is being filed when into the GST return, whether it is GSTR 1 or 3B, first get all the data that is being filed. It doesn't mean only getting of the PDF copies or downloading the PDF copies of the returns from the portal, but it also includes what data was actually uploaded. If you say that the data is being uploaded by our respective consultant or the chartered accountant who you have hired for these services, then the data that was being provided to them plays an important role, even because mistakes may be made even at the time of feeding the data and then giving the data to the consultant or the chartered accountant to file these returns. Companies, many of them are filing these returns on their own. The systems have become so easier now, but still the processes are being done by many people, professionals also. So data provided to them again plays an important role, and we as the internal auditors need to check that what data is being given to them. ये मुद्दा कहाँ आएगा जहां पे हम मंथली इंटरनल ऑडिट में अगर कोई सीए काम कर रहा है तो definitely he will play an important role, because monthly GSTR1 has to be filed before 11th of the succeeding month. So at that time he has to see that what sales are being recorded. So to check this part, what sales are being recorded, you need to first verify your sales register. You need to check whether all the transactions are being properly accounted into your books. If all those transactions are accounted, then another part that we also need to verify is the GST numbers that are being recorded for our customers. Naturally, a master database might have been created by the purchase department, the input department, while getting the goods recorded into our books. While the goods are being entered, that is, goods received note is being prepared, at that time the purchase department would have already made a master file of all those suppliers. And at that time, the GST numbers, the GST certificates, all the basic master data would have been taken and fed into the system. But feeding this data, that is the manual part where human error persists. Some words may be mismatched or feeding may be going wrong. So as an internal auditor, we should take care that all these data are being done correctly. Sales register is being made, and then the GSTR1 data that is being taken finalized to file GSTR1 has to be matched. मंथली बेसिस पे तो ये मैचिंग हुआ ही हुआ, बट इसके साथ में हमें मैचिंग इसको एनुअल बेसिस पे भी करके लेना है, ताकि ये देख के वी हैव टू चेक दैट नन ऑफ द सेल्स B2B transactions are left reporting, because if single transaction is being left reported, then your customer may not get the ITC credit and he will face problems. If he is facing problems, definitely he will call back to you. So that verification or reconciliation is necessary. Another reconciliation we also need to do is reconciling all the sale bill transactions with the e-way bills and the e-invoices wherever applicable. Now, we all are aware of that. If your preceding year aggregate turnover has exceeded 5 lakh rupees, 5 crore rupees, then you are liable to issue e-invoices also, apart from your regular invoicing that you are giving to your customers. So e-invoice is applicable. And we also are aware that now the transaction and system has made an amendment whereby e-way will be issued only when the e-invoices are being issued. So if these two provisions are applicable for each and every transaction, as an internal auditor, we should check that e-invoices have been issued or not, and the respective e-way bills as per the provisions, whether those are being issued or not. Because if not issued, then they will also have some necessary repercussions. तो वो एक पार्ट जरूरी है देख लेना, उसको इंश्योर करना. 5 करोड़ के ऊपर के अगर आपका टर्नओवर, तो नेचुरली हर वो क्लाइंट जिनके इस पे B2B ट्रांजैक्शंस है, उनको ई इनवॉइसेस एप्लीकेबल अगर है, तो आपके ई इनवॉइसेस इशू होना जरूरी है, बहुत जरूरी. So that has to be there. And we need to finally confirm the figures of our GSTR1 with the 3B also, because 3B is a summary where we are just feeding the total sale figures. But the total sale figures are being bifurcated between the taxable supplies and the exempt supplies. The sales on which the RCM is liable to be paid by our customer, even those type of sales are there for some clients. So then we need to check whether the entire sale is reported by us into GSTR1 and the same is being matching into 3B also. Definitely, if there is a mismatch between the sales reported in 1 and 3B, and that too when 3B sale is less than GSTR1, then you are going to have a notice as per Rule 88C. 88C, which was applicable since December 2022, and whereby now a system generated notices are coming. And if you haven't paid the taxes in 3B, then you will get a system generated notice for which we need to give a reply in 7 days. And that too automatic notices are there. And if we are not giving this reply, so naturally the subsequent months GSTR1 or the 3B as whatever the periodicity is, those are going to get blocked. तो naturally पहले हमें ये नोटिस का रिप्लाई देना है, और नोटिस का रिप्लाई पार्ट ए में तो हमें सिर्फ लाइबिलिटी बता देंगी, सिस्टम बोल देगी, बट देन वी नीड टू गिव अवर रिप्लाईज इन पार्ट बी, एंड वेयरबाय वी नीड टू आइदर एक्सेप्ट द difference liability whatever it is, and if we are accepting it, then we need to pay that taxes by filing DRC03. Please note, whatever the taxes that you are paying, in that the reason you have to select is liability mismatch GSTR1 and 3B. Please do not forget to select a proper reason while filing such type of a DRC03 and mentioning the reason in part B. If you are not accepting this particular liability and you say that you have some reasons, genuine reasons that you have such difference, then you have to select those couple of questions are there, give the necessary answer wherever applicable, and then file those replies so that your query, this notice gets resolved and you are able to file the subsequent GSTR1 or 3B which has already been blocked. तो ये बहुत जरूरी है, सिस्टम जनरेटेड नोटिसेस न बने, इसके लिए ही हमें ये रिकंसिलिएशंस करना जरूरी है. अब कोई कहेगा कि ये फर्क आ ही क्यों रहा है, तो फर्क आने के बहुत सारे कारण हो सकते हैं. हमारे दोनों के टर्नओवर में ये हो सकता है कि सम में हैव रिपोर्टेड लास्ट ईयर सेल्स और द सब्सिक्वेंट अर्लियर पीरियड ट्रांजैक्शंस ओवर ईयर. This has been reported in the current year, means previous year sales reported in the current year, that may create a problem. It may happen that the exempt transactions are being reported. Naturally, they are not going to have any effect onto the liability part, but the turnover will have a mismatch. There may be some transactions of advance payment received. Now, in case of a dealer who is dealing in goods, naturally, if your client is dealing in goods, advance payments are not going to make any effect because we are not liable to pay GST on the advance receipt in case of goods. But naturally, in case of the services, a person who is a service provider, he has to pay GST on the advance payments also. And when he pays that GST into advance payment, so reporting into the GSTR1 in the respective tabs, and then paying the GST in the 3B. And subsequently, when the final invoice is being issued, reporting it into the GSTR1, that is advance is adjusted against the invoices, that has to be done. So these things may create a difference between the actual turnover in the GSTR1 and 3B. So we need to reconcile. There may be some transactions without consideration, that is deemed supply. वो हम बात यहाँ पे नहीं करेंगे, बट डीम सप्लाई क्या है, शेड्यूल 1 हमें कहता है सेक्शन 7 के अंदर, तो हमें सभी को ध्यान है. There may be some credit notes which are being issued relating to sales return. तो उसका रिपोर्टिंग प्रॉपर हुआ है नहीं, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली द जीएसटी 3B, while filing GSTR 3B, the effect has been taken or not. There are some trade discounts being given on which GST is applicable. Again, trade discount, we all are aware of it. Some discounts which are predetermined on which GST is applicable, and there are some discounts which are after the transactions are being done, which are not predetermined, then GST effect is not given. So commercial credit notes needs to be given in such type of a transaction. So ये डॉक्यूमेंटेशन का पार्ट भी है, जहां पे हमें देखना है कि अगर हमने क्रेडिट नोट क्लाइंट को इशू किया है, हमारे सप्लायर ने, हमारे क्लाइंट ने उसके कस्टमर को कुछ इशू किया है सेल्स रिटर्न के लिए, तो फिर क्या उसका रिपोर्टिंग प्रॉपर जीएसटी रिटर्न्स में हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है. Valuations will also affect section 15 of the CGST Act, and sometimes it may happen. Again, that is a typographical error, not a part of a revenue leakage whereby you are not paying tax or evading tax. But at some occasions, very few, probably very few, that purchase returns are being reflected as sales. And while filing the 3B, the purchase return was being reported into sales part, outward supply. So it may create a difference between the outward supply as per your books and the actual outward supply reported into the GST returns. So these are the problems. There may be some other situation also which may be there. तो हमें ये कवर करना बहुत जरूरी है. रिकोर्स पहले ही बना लेना चाहिए, जिससे ये मालूम पड़ेगा कि यस एग्जैक्टली व्हाट इज द पार्ट ऑफ पॉइंट वेयर द रिकंसिलिएशन परसिस्ट, व्हाई दिस रिकंसिलिएशन परसिस्ट, ये देख लेना बहुत जरूरी है. सो दिस वाज अ पार्ट ऑफ द रिकंसिलिएशन. अगर रिकंसिलिएशन एज एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर हम ही क्लियर करवा देते हैं, तो जब स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर he will do his duties or the tax auditor will do his duties, naturally he will have the entire workings tallied, or whatever the queries are there that would have been resolved earlier itself. तो ये एक पार्ट होना जरूरी है. The next part what I would say is now reconciliation, what I have already said first, but just a detailed part about this, that is the sales register in our books of accounts and the e-invoices that we have already issued. We all are aware of it कि सेल्स रजिस्टर हमारे बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट से आ रहा है, जिसपे हम सब डिटेल्स मेंटेन कर रहे हैं रेसिपिएंट के, एंड एक पर्टिकुलर बिल नंबर के ऑर्डर में इशू कर रहे हैं. लेकिन वो बिल नंबर भी क्या है, जिससे अभी नया साल शुरू हुआ 1 अप्रैल से, तो नेचुरली वेदर द बिल नंबर वाज बीइंग शुड हैव बीन यूनिक, so a fresh numbering has been started or not. Many dealers do that, so chronologically that should be unique for the entire year. The place of supply provisions need to be taken care of, and proper place of supply will decide what type of tax has to be levied. So that is also going to play an important role. And on all these bases, then the e-invoices are being issued. E-invoices, we all are aware of it that we are issuing it on the invoice registration portal, that is the IRP portal. And on this IRP portal, once the invoice is generated and we have a unique QR code available and the IRN number, then only we say that this invoice is a valid invoice. But going through all these transactions, it happens many a times that there comes a reconciliation between the sales register and the invoice also. Why this happens? There may be a reason that you have, while feeding the data for invoice, wrong data was being fed. It is not done this genuinely, but typographically wrong data may have happened. Wrong client name might have been selected, or the GST number would have been selected, or the wrong values would have been put. Something may happen. And many a times with God's grace, it happens that आपको same day पे अगर मालूम पड़ जाता है, you rectified, you cancel the e-invoice and issue a fresh one. But many a times it may happen that you all get it reconciled while filing the GSTR1. Means the entire month gets completed, and after that, when you get the data prepared for GSTR1, that is before 11th of the next month, at that time you come to an idea that you have a difference between the e-invoices that are issued and the actual data that is available. So this reconciliation between the two will definitely help us to see that there is no duplicacy of e-invoices, or there are no wrong e-invoices being issued. If wrong e-invoices are issued, then you may need to issue a credit or a debit note accordingly, and again issue a fresh e-invoice. But creating a credit or a debit note will again lead to reporting of that data into the GSTR1 properly, so that your liability doesn't get increased. Otherwise manually आप GSTR में कुछ भी changes कर देंगे तो ये सारे reportings में फर्क आएगा, और अगर फर्क आया है तो definitely it may lead you further into trouble by getting you notices. So kindly have these reconciliations on a monthly basis itself. This reconciliation helps us to re-uploading the data that is already auto-populated. So we should not re-upload that data. To finalize the sales register at the end of the fiscal year, and to keep a tab on the errors that are made in the invoices due to which penalties or interest may arise. So हमारा बहुत अच्छा एक काम complete हो जाएगा once these invoices and the reconciliation between the sales register is done. Going further, some other points that one should take care of while finalizing the sales or the outward supply. Here we need to take care that sales is on a consignment basis. So when the sales is done on a consignment basis, whether that is being properly recorded or not, consignment basis पे कब हो रहा है सेल, ये ध्यान में रखना बहुत जरूरी है. Many people forget these things. If goods are being sent on job work basis, then whether those goods are being timely received back or not, because if those are not received within time, then even that will lead to a sales part. So capital goods should be received back within 3 years, and the inputs should be received back within 1 year of the job work, else those will be treated as outward supplies. We need to take care of the export sales, also known as the zero rated supplies of goods or services. Now we all know that, और एक क्लियर बात रहती है कि जब यार एक्सपोर्ट है तो जीएसटी नहीं भरना है, बट जीएसटी नहीं भरना है ऐसा नहीं है, बट साथ में हमें फिर उसके कुछ दूसरे पॉइंट्स भी हैं जो ध्यान में रखना है कि you have to file the LUT, that is the letter of undertaking, and the supply is done without payment of IGST. But again, LUT is being filed or not, so that needs to be taken care of. उसके भी रिस्पेक्टिव टाइम पीरियड के अंदर ये सब काम हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है वो देखना जरूरी. And once the LUT is done and you are not liable for any IGST, then you are eligible to claim a refund of that unutilized input tax credit for the goods or the services that you used for the supply, outward supply of those goods or services. That is the export related sales. ये एक मुद्दा तो ध्यान में रख ही लिया आपने. इसके साथ में आपको ध्यान में रखना है अदर इनकम्स क्या क्या हो रही है. हर एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की अलग अलग टाइप से अदर इनकम होती है. तो वो अदर इनकम रेंटल इनकम है, या और कोई टाइप की उनको कमीशन मिल रहा है, या कोई टाइप का कहीं से क्रेडिट्स मिल रहे हैं. तो व्हाट टाइप ऑफ क्रेडिट्स और इनकम्स दे आर गेटिंग, वी नीड टू चेक it and then check whether the GST is applicable on those transactions or not. It is not necessary that each and every transaction would be very easily identified into the sales part. Some may be direct income or some may be reflected into indirect incomes also. So we need to go through with all the format of income available. One point is there with regards to the holding and the subsidiary companies, that many a times a holding company gives loan or gives some advances to the subsidiary companies. Then the subsidiary company pays interest or some format of another income to that holding company. Then what is the GST applicability in this respect? ये भी एक देखना बहुत जरूरी है. इंटरेस्ट अगर है तो जेन्युइनली वेदर इट वाज अ लोन और जस्ट इंटरेस्ट दिखाया गया है, वो एक चीज समझना जरूरी है. लोन्स एंड एडवांसेस पार्ट है तो इंटरेस्ट का एप्लीकेबिलिटी का प्रोविजन अलग हो जाता है, या और कोई अलग इनकम आ रही है, जैसे सब्सिडरी होल्डिंग को कुछ रेंटल पे कर रही है या हायर चार्जेस पे कर रही है, तो डेफिनेटली दैट विल बी लायबल टू जीएसटी. वी कैन नॉट से दैट इट्स जस्ट एन इंटरनल कंपनी सो इट शुड बी अवॉइडेड और इट शुड बी एग्जम्प्टेड. नो, even there are provisions with regards to the applicability of GST on corporate guarantees. कॉर्पोरेट गारंटीज हमें सभी को पता है कि इसके ऊपर भी जीएसटी लगेगा, लेकिन ये ध्यान रखिए कि इसके ऊपर भी अभी केस लॉस शुरू है एंड इट इज इनटू द पंजाब कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट, वेयर बाय दिस हैज बीन पुट फॉरवर्ड अगेन ऑन द corporate guarantee GST applicability on this part. But yet the decision is not there. Currently, GST is applicable on all these things also. Apart from that, if you are from a construction sector, if you are an auditor of a construction sector industry, then definitely works contract construction sector is going to the internal auditor is going to play a very important role over there, because they need to again check whether the GST is paid on advances received or not. Now, advances received, if your construction client is having a construction of a residential complexes, residential real estate projects, then they need to check whether that is under affordable housing or not. If affordable housing, then the applicability GST rate will deviate, and if not, then the rate will deviate. If it's a commercial complex, then the rate will deviate. So we need to check all those things, and the necessary GST need to be paid on the advances received, and later on those need to be adjusted in GSTR when the final sale transaction occurs of that particular property. तो वो एक देखना जरूरी है. लाइबिलिटी के लगती हुई बात अगर मैं करूँ तो ये पूरा पार्ट सिर्फ लाइबिलिटी साइड अभी बात करूँ, इसमें और भी कुछ है. तो लाइबिलिटी के अगर मैं कुछ और अदर पॉइंट्स बोलूं, तो वी से दैट apart from all the income being accounted for, income being reported into the GSTR1 with all the necessary correct details, one thing we need to take care of whether the invoices are being properly issued or not. Invoices, again, whether that contains all the necessary particulars or not, वो भी एक देखना बहुत जरूरी है. पर्टिकुलर्स के साथ में HSN का प्रॉपर रिपोर्टिंग हो रहा है. HSN 4 digit, 6 digit, whatever that criteria as applicable to your client, we need to check that, and the correct HSN is being reported. The classification plays a very important role, so please do take care of that particular part, because on that basis then your GST rate applicability will come into picture. What type of GST rate is applicable, as a 5%, 12%, 18, or whatsoever that rates are there. Please do not forget, as I have already discussed, about the credit notes that are being already issued or yet to be issued for all the returnable transactions. Returnable whereby the goods are being returned. So if the goods are being returned within time, then invoice applicability, its e-waybill applicability, it's reporting into the GSTR1. For the pharma sector, what we can say that कि expired goods है अगर, तो उसका ट्रीटमेंट कैसा किया जा रहा है. तो ये बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जहां पे हमें ध्यान रखना है कि हमारा रिपोर्टिंग कैसा हो रहा है और उसका जीएसटी इम्पैक्ट क्या है. All these things once done, you will be in a position to finalize your outward supply and the liability on that outward supply. Even if you are selling, before I go on to the this part, I come back. Even there will be an outward supply, or there may be situations of outward supply whereby a dealer or a client is basically selling its fixed assets, those fixed assets on which the ITC would have been claimed or not claimed, then that will also be a part of your outward supply, and that will be again a part of the reconciliation, because your P&L account or the trading account is not going to have that sales. So we need to check all these aspects with regards to the sales and the liability, because its ITC is also net further going to be affected in case of the capital assets that are being sold within a prescribed time period. तो ये सारे प्रोविजंस ऐसे हैं जो जीएसटी के अफेक्ट करते हैं. प्लीज ध्यान रखिएगा सभी ये जीएसटी के प्रोविजंस जो भी यहाँ पे आते हैं. नाउ summarizing all these things about the GST part, I move over to the next part of this session, and that is with regards to the input tax credit. आउटवर्ड सप्लाई तो हमने सबने ध्यान दे दिया, प्रॉपर वर्किंग्स बना ली, सेल्स रजिस्टर चेक कर लिया, सभी चीजें, चाहे वो जर्नल्स की एंट्री हो, सिस्टम्स में आपके अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम, चाहे वो सैप हो, ईआरपी पैकेजेस यूज कर रहे हैं आप या क्लाउड बेस्ड पे अकाउंटिंग कर रहे हैं, जो भी आपने सब चेक कर लिया. लेकिन अब आ गए नेक्स्ट पार्ट पे, आईटीसी, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट. अगेन अ वेरी क्रूशियल रोल, and many of us, we all are aware of that they are getting notices for the previous years of 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21 and all those, for the differences in the input tax credit that they have received in GSTR 2A or what they have claimed to the 3Bs. नोटिस क्यों आ रही है? पहले बेसिक पॉइंट तो ये है कि एज एन ऑडिटर एलिजिबिलिटी चेक कर लेना कि आईटीसी एलिजिबल है या नहीं. तो जब एक goods are coming in and a goods receipt note is being prepared in the manufacturing sector or into service providing sector whereby the goods are being received and they are being accounted for, so first please confirm whether that ITC is eligible or not, and for that some basic criteria are available which section 16 has specified as per the CGST Act, which says that ITC would be eligible only if some criteria are being done. We all are aware of it. Just a brief overview of all those points of section 16. I'm not saying specifically section 16 to overall on a basis section 16. तो जहां पे हम बात करें तो whether that ITC is for the business purpose or not, the very basic point. If it's for business purpose, okay, proceed ahead. But if it's not for the business purpose, that is it for the personal use, please avoid claiming such ITCs. People take a risk and they claim that ITCs, but avoid those things. As an auditor, as a chartered accountant, we would not suggest these things to be claimed because further litigation creates. So avoid those things. Next, you should have a document in hand, because in case of assessments, the officer will definitely ask you whether you have a copy of the invoice available. This ITC should be available into your GSTR 2B. Now definitely 2B में कब आएगा? तो जब आपके सप्लायर ने GSTR 1 फाइल किया है और उसने उसके GSTR 1 में आपके लगता है कि जो ट्रांजैक्शन है B2B ट्रांजैक्शन ये प्रॉपरली रिपोर्ट किया. ये रिपोर्ट भी कब होगा? तो ऑटो रिपोर्ट होता है GSTR 1 में, हमने पहले ही बात किया. अगर ई इनवॉइस इशू हो चुका है तो GSTR 1 में तो फेच हो गया होगा एंड ही हैज रिपोर्टेड. बट if invoice is not issued, तो he should have manually typed it. Invoice क्यों नहीं हुआ है तो भूल गया है, कुछ error हुआ है, whatever those reasons may be there. But then that should have been fed into GSTR and then only you can get the credit into 2B, and that too all within the respective time frame. Next part would be receipt of the goods or the services or both. We all are aware of it, and I said into the start of this session itself, कि goods received होना बहुत जरूरी है, because there are now many notices available to dealers stating as a non-genuine taxpayer or the fake transactions being done. So that should not be there. You should have the proper documentation available with regards to the proof as a receipt of goods, like the consignment note, the goods receipt note that is being prepared at the entry gate, or the courier receipt, whatever those things are that which can prove you that yes, you have actually received the goods or the services. The communication of ITC, which is not restricted as per section 38. Please note that has been already amended section 38. और अब ये आ गया है कि अगर ITC restricted है तो आपको GSTR 2B में दिख जाएगा that it is not eligible. Restricted क्यों है? तो उसके भी बहुत सारे reasons हैं. तो जब भी as an internal auditor you are verifying the GSTR 2B of a particular client, your client, please do check why this ITC was restricted. It may happen that the supplier might have not filed 3B. It may happen that the supplier might not be a genuine taxpayer, or there would be a difference between the GSTR 1 and the 3B. He would have received the notices and for which further the ITC had blocked. So there may be some of the other reasons under section 38 which they have said, due to which the ITC would have been restricted. So this gets communicated to us into GSTR 2B. Please do take care of that points in 2B. Supplier has paid the taxes to the government. Whatever the sale he has given, the taxes are paid. Naturally, this payment can be done while filing the 3B and using the input tax credit balance available or via the cash ledger. So we all are aware of all those things. And finally, the return is filed as per section 39 by the client itself to claim the ITC. So some of the basic points with regards to section 16, which says about the conditions to claim the ITC, so whether these are followed or not. At the very initial level itself, monthly audit आप कर रहे हैं, तो monthly जब ये data तैयार हो रहा, उसी वक्त आप ये बात कर सकते हैं कि yes, all these things are done or not. बहुत जरूरी पॉइंट जो आप ही क्लियर कर लेते हैं इंटरनल ऑडिटर के पर्सपेक्टिव से. Going further of this ITC part, there comes some restrictions again. Earlier, we have just saw the conditions for claiming the ITC, but now some restrictions. Then there are some provisions available about these ITC under section 16 subsection 2, that if you are receiving the goods in lots or installments, then ITC would be allowed only after receipt of the last lot. So kindly do not make such type of mistake, or if the client has done an accounting at the first receipt of first lot itself, and he would have done the accounting as a receipt of ITC. So please avoid to claim such type of ITC. Don't be in a hesitation that bill तो आ गया है, goods आना चालू हो गए तो अपने को ITC मिल जाएगा. No, nothing would happen like this because the credit would already not have received into. Another important aspect that is now applicable is payment to be done within 180 days from the invoice date. Now, a month back, we all are aware of that there was a lot of amendments and discussion about the payments to be made within 45 days to the MSME, that is the micro and the small MSME dealers. That if you are not making the payment within 45 days, then the necessary repercussions into the income tax. But we, under GST, this provision was well available, not only for MSME, but all type of suppliers. And if a recipient of the goods or the services is not making the payment to its supplier within 180 days, then the ITC has to be reversed. And this reversal of ITC would be treated as the added to the output liability. He has to pay it back with interest, and he can reclaim that ITC only once he makes the payment to the supplier. So this provision was well there, but then initially it was said that this will be applicable once notified. So this has already been notified now, and definitely I'll just share one more slide that it has been notified with effect from 1st October 2023. So please do take care that for this financial year that we have just completed in 23-24, do check whether the payments are being properly made within 180 days or not. If not made, then this point is definitely going to affect, whereby the reversals would be made and you have to reclaim it within 180 days. And while making the reversals, interest applicable has to be paid. This point is definitely there. I'll come back onto the earlier slide. There is another part about the depreciation content. If you are purchasing and your client has purchased an asset, crores of rupees of assets are being purchased into the multinationals and into the big companies, whereby we are working as an internal auditor. Then at that point of time, the proper accounting has to be verified with regards to the invoices in which the GST was being levied by the supplier. Majority of them are doing the accounting very true and very perfect. But many a times it happens mistakenly that people claim the GST, along with that they try to claim a depreciation also. This both will not work. The provisions very clearly say that if you are claiming depreciation on the GST component, then you are not eligible for the ITC part of that component, of that asset or which the GST is capitalized and you have claimed the depreciation. So this point also needs to be verified as a part of an internal auditor कि proper accounting में depreciation proper हुआ है और उसके साथ ही GST भी सिर्फ अगर GST claim हो गया है तो we should do the depreciation accounting only on the basic taxable value of that goods that are being purchased and capitalized into our books of accounts. So that part is there. The another important point जो अभी हम सबको लागू रहेगा जब बुक्स फाइनलाइजेशन चलने वाले हैं तो बिफोर दैट एज एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर जो चेक करना है वो है आईटीसी बिलोंगिंग टू अ प्रीवियस फाइनेंशियल ईयर should be claimed within the respective time limit as given under section 16(4). 16(4) जो कि 2 साल पहले अमेंड भी हुआ 2022 में और ये ड्यू डेट बढ़ा के नाउ इट हैज बीन मेड दैट ऑल द आईटीसी रिलेटिंग टू प्रीवियस फाइनेंशियल ईयर as of today we can say that the previous financial year is 23-24. So the ITC for 23-24 is all claimed by the end of 30th November 2024. For this, we need to make many reconciliations because on a monthly basis, जब April 23 start हुआ था, we claimed ITC as per 2B. We checked our 2B and claimed it as per 2B. But then a reconciliation kept on pipping on our side, whereby we did one activity that is party-wise reconciliation and checking whether the credit was being given by the supplier to us and it was reflected in our GSTR 2B. Those suppliers who haven't given the credit, we need to now start calling them or we need to start reporting it to our client and ask them to make necessary calls, communications to the supplier so that our necessary credit is being reflected in GSTR 2B and we claim before the end of the financial year. Over here, another important point comes that whether the accounting of all the transactions are being properly done or not. There may be some entries which are being reflected in 2B and we haven't accounted into our books of accounts. Reason it may happen that one, it is not eligible, hence we have accounted on an inclusive basis, even we have accounted the GST component as an expense because that was not eligible. Just like an example, what I can say that the organization might have purchased a car, a passenger car, of which the credit is not eligible or it has been blocked credit under section 17(5). So the GST component is by default not eligible to a regular dealer. A regular dealer again who is not dealing into cars. Now in that case, that GST component is added to the basic value into the books of account, that is fixed asset, and depreciation is claimed on that entire value. But the GST was being received into GSTR 2B. So definitely when you will reconcile your 2B with the books of accounts, you will find a gap that a credit is received from suppose a car dealer, but of which you haven't done a separate accounting ITC receipt, input tax credit received part. So definitely you may have a difference. So you have to clarify such differences, clear those things by making the reconciliations, and finally come on to those parties whose credit is yet not received, make them the respective reporting to the customer, that is our client, the organization, the management, tell them that these are the suppliers who are yet not given us the credit. Necessary adjustments will be done by the management so that they will make a communication or some letters or something like that, and then the credits would be received within time and be claimed. This was only about the claiming part. Another part was we need to take care that side by side the accounting is being properly done about these ITCs into books of accounts. We claim the credit as per 2B. The time will pass and your statutory audit will get completed on a due date, and further the tax audit will also get completed. By the time you or the GST auditor he comes and your team does the GST audit under GST 9 annual return, the GSTR 9C, that is the reconciliation, everything that is being done. By that time, please ensure that the entire such differences, party-wise differences, are being cleared and proper credit has been claimed. So please ensure all those things. And we, as the part of the internal auditor, definitely should do this on a monthly basis for each and every of our client, so that proper reportings are being done and there is no loss of the GST. Block credits, a major topic, what we can say about the block credits, section 17.5, why there is a credit not eligible. So list of transactions are being given into block credits about the various block credit transactions. This already what I have covered. Uh, Block credit may be for multiple reasons. So there may be what we can say personal consumption, or there may be something. I just come back forward. Okay, it's gone. It's gone very further. Okay, 17.5 block credits. And into this block credit, we all are aware of that why there is this block credit available. So there may be a motor vehicle, that is a passenger motor vehicle being purchased, so that credit is not eligible. Relating to the foods and the beverages, the credit is not eligible. The outdoor catering part, the credit is not eligible. Outdoor catering means many organizations might be having some various type of functions or some events for which outdoor catering may be done. So please ensure that these credits are not being availed, or these are not being taken, ITC is not being availed. Beauty treatments credit is not there. The NRTPs who are there, उनको credit eligible नहीं है. Healthcare services के credit eligible नहीं है. Healthcare, a lot list of things that are available into healthcare. So if you're a composition dealer, naturally a small dealer, what I can say, the client, then composition, they are not going to have the credits. Actually, works contract whereby you are construction of an immovable property is being done. Either your own, you are doing it, or you have given a contract for construction of an immovable property, which you are capitalizing into your books of accounts for your personal use, then definitely no credit is eligible. Unless and until you are a contractor where you are going to sell that property, means you are going to execute that contract for some another person, then ITC is eligible. Otherwise, for no. पर्सनल कंजम्पशन में पहले ही बात कर चुका हूं. Goods lost या stolen, again an important part. On an annual basis, many situations or many such type of natural calamities or some man-made calamities are there, whereby due to some such type of transactions your goods get lost or stolen or destroyed. Now you already have claimed, your client has already claimed the ITC of those transactions. So then we need to take care, we need to get it, those transactions valued, the goods that are being lost, and then we need that such ITC which was already being claimed is being reversed. ये अगर टाइम पे कर दिया बहुत अच्छी बात है. अगर नहीं हुआ है, एज एन ऑडिटर प्लीज आप रिपोर्ट कीजिए. आपका रिपोर्टिंग क्लियर हो जाएगा मैनेजमेंट को. दे विल बी अवेयर ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स टू टेक द फाइनल कॉल. But if you haven't reported for these things, naturally it may come to us that we are not doing a proper service. So it should not happen. वो प्लीज ध्यान रखिएगा. Such type of activities are there into the block credits, what I can say. So I just come back again to the earlier slide. Coming on to this availability. Okay, so this was all done about the 180 days payment. And now the availability of the ITC part. So many goods are being purchased. So it is categorized into three parts. One is the inputs, the input services, and then we have the further thing next, what we can say capital goods. So three things are being purchased on which we are having the ITC. This ITC has to be bifurcated into two parts. One for the business and the non-business activity, and another for the use for those goods or services which are being used for exempt and taxable supplies. So first, when ITC is used for non-business activity, that is other purposes, input tax credit is not eligible. And another part, if it is for business purpose, ITC is available. But then in case of business purpose, we need to attribute this ITC in the manner as maybe which is prescribed by the government. So with this manner, further Rule 42 and Rule 43 of the CGST rules clarify how we need to bifurcate this ITC eligibility and not eligibility. So if this ITC, which is used for business purpose, the goods or the services or the capital assets, if the entire thing is being used purely for taxable supplies, then ITC is eligible. If this entire thing is being used purely for zero rated supplies, zero rated, that is the export sales or the SEZ sales, then yes, ITC is eligible. But if we are using it for the mixed supply, then we need to bifurcate those goods or the services or the capital assets which are being used for mixed purpose. Mixed purpose matlab whereby taxable and non-taxable goods both are being sold by use of that particular single commodity. Then that mixed supply, the ITC would be apportioned and it is being referred to as common credit, and then that common credit has to be apportioned in a particular ratio. Otherwise, apart from this mixed supply, if you are very easily able to identify that a particular goods or the service or particular assets are being used for non-taxable supplies or exempt supplies or nil rated supplies, then all these three cases, ITC is not eligible. Please note very clearly that when we are not generating any outward liability, then ITC would not be available. Naturally, why we are not generating outward liability? Because either our products would have been exempted under that exemption notification, or it would have been that our goods are covered under non-taxable schemes. Like what we can say to a petrol dealer, petrol or the diesel dealer, high-speed diesel or the motor spirit. In that case, definitely there is no going to be GST outward liability. So then whatever the credits that type of a dealer would be having, not eligible because the sales are also not taxable. Apart from this, with regards to if you are working as an internal audit team for a bank or a financial institution, NBFCs, what we can say, then we are already aware of that the ITC eligible to them is only up to the option that is available to them is ITC for 50% of the eligible inputs or the capital goods or the input services, only 50% and not more than that. So that part we need to take care of by each and every person who is dealing into the banking sector or the financial institutions, and they are doing the internal audits of those type of organizations. Then please do take care that the proper ITC is being available. Apart from that, I already pinched a topic earlier in this session whereby I said that there is a sale of capital goods. So then the capital goods, definitely it will create a liability. But then that I've tried to segregate into four parts. One, whereby capital goods are supplied for a consideration on which ITC was already available. For example, the dealer, your client had purchased some capital goods like plant and machinery of which the ITC was claimed. He used it only for 2 years and then he resold it. Why was sold? That is the reason on a separate part. But then what will be the liability? So the GST will be calculated on a transaction value, that is the sale value on which the goods were sold, transaction value, or you need to calculate ITC attributable for the remaining life which is unused. So as I said, he used it only for 2 years, that is 24 months. So then 36 months was pending. So calculate the ITC attributable for those 36 months and see whether the GST on transaction value or the GST attributable to this 36 months, which is higher, and you pay that, reverse that GST which you have already claimed. Again, this one, part one. Part two, capital goods which are supplied for a consideration on which ITC was not available. But then still, as per section 7, that is supply. And then if it is a supply, then ITC may be levied. So even though you have not claimed the ITC, but ITC would have be levied on the transaction value, and there are some criteria. According to those, please do refer to it, and then the liability has to be calculated, and again that has to be paid, reported into GSTR 1 3B, and then pay that liability. The third part, capital goods supplied for nil consideration on which ITC was availed. Now, within 5 years, we are supplying a capital good of which the ITC was availed. Why such thing may happen? That nil consideration. Either this would have been removed from the capital asset and given to a particular director or some employee, or it would have been donated to some institute, then that may be a reason why there would have been a nil consideration. So in such a case, if there is a nil consideration, definitely point A becomes that transaction value is nil. But then what is the remaining life within that 60 months? So whatever the ITC that would be apportioned to the remaining life, that would be higher side, and you have to pay it back. That is, you have to reverse it to the government, because you have already availed the entire ITC and not using that capital asset even for 60 months. So that working has to be made. Apart from that, the last part that I segregated this thing is capital goods supplied for nil consideration on which ITC is not claimed. ITC is also not claimed, consideration is nil. तो मैंने जब क्लेम ही नहीं किया है, एक पार्ट सेल वैल्यू भी मेरी जीरो हो गई है, तो इवन आप अगर मेरा बैलेंस लाइफ 60 मंथ्स में कैलकुलेट करोगे कि मेरा शायद बैलेंस लाइफ 36 मंथ्स अनयूज्ड है, तो मैंने जितना आईटीसी क्लेम किया वो रिवर्स करो, पर मैंने क्लेम ही नहीं किया तो रिवर्स कहां से करो? तो फोर्थ पार्ट वो रहेगा जहां पे आईटीसी एप्लीकेबिलिटी आएगी नहीं, क्योंकि आपने आईटीसी क्लेम भी नहीं किया था एंड न ही आपने जब कैपिटल गुड्स रिमूव किया है, सेल किया है, तो आपने कोई कंसिडरेशन चार्ज की. So segregated this sale of capital goods into these 4 parts. This working should be made. Many a times this workings are being brought into picture when the tax audit or the statutory audit is being done. The entire year goes. Asset was being sold at the beginning of the year, and पूरा साल खत्म होने के बाद जब जून जुलाई में स्टैट ऑडिट हो रहा है, टैक्स ऑडिट हो रहा है, उस वक्त पता चलता है यार ऐसा कुछ तो भी ट्रांजेक्शन जो रिपोर्ट करना छूट गया है. अगर ऐसा कहीं पे होता है, प्लीज आप पहले ही एज एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर ये वर्किंग्स बना लीजिए, रिपोर्ट करवा दीजिए, एंड बिकॉज दिस लेट रिपोर्टिंग इज बीइंग डन, तो नेसेसरी इंटरेस्ट भी अगर एप्लीकेबल है तो उसका पे करवा दीजिए प्लीज. तो ये बहुत जरूरी चीज है. इसीलिए मैंने सेल्स के रिकंसिलिएशन के टाइम पे भी ये पार्ट कहा कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि एसेट इज बीइंग सोल्ड, वन ऑफ द पॉइंट ऑफ रिकंसिलिएशन. आईटीसी के रिकंसिलिएशन की मैंने बात की, तो जैसे सेल्स साइड में सेल रजिस्टर और जीएसटीआर 1 का रिकंसिलिएशन था, सेम वे यहाँ पे हमारा आईटीसी एज पर अवर अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स एंड जीएसटीआर 3B में जो हम लोग क्लेम कर रहे हैं, इसका रिकंसिलिएशन करना जरूरी है. We all are doing it on a regular basis. Many of those who are practicing in GST, they are doing it some on an annual basis when they are filing the GST annual return. Because they might be saying that यार ये काम तो क्लाइंट का है, वो करता होगा रेगुलर बेसिस पे. बट प्लीज रेगुलर बेसिस पे क्लाइंट कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा है, अगर आप इंटरनल ऑडिटर है तो इसका फॉलोअप जरूर लीजिए और आईटीसी रिकंसाइल करके लीजिए, सो दैट बैलेंस आईटीसी व्हिच इज येट टू बी क्लेम्ड should be claimed as per section 16(4). ITC because balance वो तभी मालूम पड़ेगा जब आप 2B के हिसाब से क्लेम कर रहे हो और फिर आपका रिकंसिलिएशन बन जाएगा. Now if you are not reconciling this and if excess ITC is claimed in 3B as compared to 2B, then what will happen? You will get a notice under rule 88D, that is because of this mismatch, whereby you are eligible only for a particular amount and you have claimed excess, and then the notice will come again, auto-populated notice, just like what we saw into the outward supply, rule 88C, and that notice form number in outward supply was DRC 1B. Now here DRC 1C, these notices would be received, and DRC 1C is received as per rule 88D, which is applicable with effect from 4th of August 2023, that is August 23. So पिछला फाइनेंशियल ईयर जिसका आप इंटरनल ऑडिट अभी कंप्लीट करेंगे तो उस पे ये एप्लीकेबल था अगस्त से. तो अगेन ऑटो जनरेटेड नोटिस, 7 दिन में आपको जवाब देना है. अगर आप जवाब नहीं देंगे तो आगे सब्सिक्वेंट रिटर्न्स जो आपके जीएसटीआर 1 3B में ब्लॉक कर दिए जाएंगे. you would not be able to file. 3B फाइल नहीं हो पाएगा अगर सब्सिक्वेंट का, तो नेसेसरी फिर उसकी पेनल्टीज चालू हो जाएंगी. So please take care of such type of auto-generated notices. Again, the notice would be reported to us in Part A that you have claimed excess ITC in 3B as compared to 2B. Part A में ये रिपोर्टिंग तो आ जाएगी, बट फिर हमें जवाब देना है इसका, और जवाब देते वक्त हमें ध्यान रखना है कि या तो क्या हम ये आईटीसी को एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं, एक्सेस आईटीसी की लाइबिलिटी को. If we accept it, then we have to pay it with interest. And if we are not ready to accept it, then what are the reasons? If you are paying it, then pay it via DRC03, selecting the reason ITC mismatch, Form GSTR 2A 2B with Form GSTR 3B, that mismatch between the two. वो रीजन प्रॉपर सिलेक्ट कीजिएगा. और अगर आप नहीं बोल रहे हैं कि मैं एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता हूँ लाइबिलिटी, तो फिर कुछ क्वेश्चन है, वो क्वेश्चन का आपका जवाब देना पड़ेगा. नाउ नेचुरली who is going to this work? That is again the scope into your audit. My suggestion would be over here that why this situation comes. If you are having a monthly working for all this matching of ITC, and if you are claiming as per 2B, then this situation will definitely not arise. But if you are not claiming it as per the proper data available in 2B, then this situation will definitely come. और फिर वो क्यों एक्सेस क्लेम हुआ है, वो पॉइंट्स निकाल के रखिए. अगर आपके स्कोप में है, आपका क्लाइंट खुद ही जीएसटी या रिटर्न्स डाल रहा है, तो ये नोटिस का जवाब भी दे सकते हैं. तो प्लीज डू गाइड योर रिस्पेक्टिव ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड द क्लाइंट टू गिव अ प्रॉपर रीजनिंग एंड आंसर. If there is a consultant who is doing this activity, then give him the proper data that why such a difference was there and leading to this notice, so that he can give a proper answer or he can give a proper replies in that particular DRC 1C. Please take this part B जिस पे reasons डालना है, तो ये ध्यान रखिएगा पूरा पार्ट. आईटीसी को रिलेटेड कुछ और पॉइंट्स की अगर मैं बात करूं, तो इंटरनल ऑडिटर के बेसिस पे मैं पहले भी बोल चुका हूं दैट यू शुड हैव द प्रॉपर टैक्स पेइंग डॉक्यूमेंट इन हैंड. टैक्स पेइंग डॉक्यूमेंट जो कि इनवॉइसेस है, क्रेडिट नोट्स है, व्हाटएवर दोस थिंग्स आर देयर. आपके सारे रिटर्न जो एप्लीकेबल हैं वो आपने फाइल करवा लिए हैं. आपने रिकंसिलिएशंस बना लिए हैं, जो मैंने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बात भी किया कि आपने रिकंसिलिएशंस किए हैं. जनरली मंथली आईटीसी का रिकंसिलिएशन जो कि 2B और आप बुक्स में अकाउंटिंग हो रहा है वो एक चेक कीजिए, और रेगुलर बेसिस पे पार्टी वाइज रिकंसिलिएशन बनाती जाइए जो अकाउंटिंग में किया गया है और जो 2B में पार्टी के क्रेडिट्स आए हैं, ताकि पता चल जाए कि किस सप्लायर का क्रेडिट आपको मिला नहीं है या गलती से ज्यादा मिला है, या मिला भी है तो आपने अकाउंटिंग नहीं की है. देयर मे बी मेनी रीजंस फॉर सच टाइप ऑफ रिकंसिलिएशन. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, एज एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर, अब जब साल खत्म होगा और आप इसका मार्च 24 का भी अगर आप इंटरनल ऑडिट कंक्लूड करेंगे, प्लीज डू गो थ्रू विथ ईच एंड एवरी आइटम ऑफ द रेवेन्यू अकाउंट which is being accounted into the profit and loss account. Each and every item, the expenses that are being accounted for, and the applicability of the GST on those transactions. If GST is applicable, then whether the invoice was available or not, then the documentation, the accounting, the 2B, everything comes into picture. बट ये एक एक्टिविटी साथ में आप करेंगे तो इससे बेनिफिट एक ये होगा कि आप नॉट ओनली जीएसटी ऑडिट के लिए सपोर्ट करेंगे, बट साइड बाय साइड आप टैक्स ऑडिट के लिए भी सपोर्ट करेंगे, जहां पे फॉर्म 3CD के अंदर क्लॉज 44 में हमें रिपोर्ट ये करना है दैट व्हाट इज द टोटल क्वांटम ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस, आउट ऑफ विच हाउ मच इज परचेज फ्रॉम द रजिस्टर्ड डीलर्स, द अनरजिस्टर्ड पार्ट, अदर्स, और द कंपोजिशन पार्ट, एक्सेट्रा. सच टाइप ऑफ रिपोर्टिंग के लिए भी आप हेल्प कर रहे हैं. तो आपका ये प्रॉपर अगर ऑडिटिंग पार्ट हुआ है विद प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस के ईच एंड एवरी आइटम का, तो डेफिनेटली यू विल सपोर्ट इनटू दिस रिपोर्टिंग आल्सो. Question may be there now. All these part of reconciliations that we are doing, whether the sales part or the ITC part, बात ये आएगी सर ये reconciliation यार अगर transaction crores में and the transactions are in hundreds and thousands of items or the line items, then how I would do it all, whether individually with single transaction? No. Definitely there are n number of softwares available into the market जो ये reconciliation का काम करता है. Many you can use those softwares and they are going very perfect and very good result about these reconciliation. हाँ, but subject to एक point ध्यान रखिए, आप आपके क्लाइंट का वैसा अकाउंटिंग उतना परफेक्ट है that you have that very good data to be fed into the software, because 2B is being getting fetched from the portal, so that will have some data and your software will be giving some data. If those items are not properly accounted for, then definitely the list of mismatch will be huge. The mismatch, maybe the software is going to take a mismatch even for the bill number. So accounting has to be done that good level. Then only all these things, the queries will be reduced at a lot. Otherwise, you will have a n number of queries into these reconciliations. तो प्लीज इसका ध्यान जरूर रखिएगा. आप इवन एक्सेल बेस्ड यूटिलिटीज है बहुत सारी, जो लोग एक्सेल पे भी काम करते हैं, दे डू द अकाउंटिंग और दे हैव done the algorithms under the Python, and then they have created such type of sheets whereby you are able to just fetch the data into those sheets and you get the differences. You can use various versions, or you can using the Excel part, various utilities of the Excel, and you can have such type of reconciliations available also in Excel. But again, mastery in Excel is required, and that's a vast topic on which you can work. Apart from this, block credits, what I have already discussed, this one part would be there. Everyone need to take care of, because मैचिंग जो बार बार मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि आप आपके आउटपुट लाइबिलिटी इनपुट के कंटेंट्स को मैच कीजिए. क्रेडिट के डिटेल्स का मैचिंग सप्लाई वाइज होना बहुत जरूरी है. वंस द मैचिंग इज डन, excess credit that has been claimed should be reversed. So reversal will be there. Such reversal, if it is because of the goods sale return, purchase return, whatever that it is, respective has been communicated to the supplier and the receiver. That has been added as the output liability of that receiver, because he has already claimed that ITC, so now he has repaid it. And duplication should be avoided, because sometimes it may happen that you are adjusting it against the purchase ITC also, and sometimes in the same return you are also adding it to the output liability. So that duplication should be avoided while doing such type of reversals. GSTR 3B जब अब भर रहे हैं तो रिवर्सल प्रॉपर कॉलम के अंदर रिपोर्ट कीजिएगा, क्योंकि कई बार आपको रीक्लेम की भी नौबत आ सकती है. तो जैसे 180 डेज के ऊपर अगर पेमेंट हुआ है तो रिवर्सल लागू है. तो बाद में जब आप पेमेंट कर दोगे, आपका क्लाइंट पेमेंट कर देता है उसके सप्लायर को, सो ही कैन रीक्लेम इट. इफ प्रॉपर कॉलम रिवर्सल इज बीइंग डन, देन ओनली यू कैन रीक्लेम इट. Otherwise, you are not eligible, or you will face difficulties while reclaiming such type of ITC also. So please do take care of this thing. So recipient is entitled to reduce the output liability if supplier rectifies the return within the prescribed time limit. So that is reclaiming के अंदर भी ये benefit available है. Please ये चीजों पे भी ध्यान रखिएगा. Two contents of our discussion, what I have highlighted. The another part that I would highlight now on a brief, that is RCM part, a very vast concept of RCM. पिछले 7 सालों में जीएसटी के आने के बाद, और जो लोग पहले सर्विस टैक्स पे प्रैक्टिस करते थे, रिवर्स चार्ज हम सभी को पता है क्या है. Just part to say that all those transactions, inward related transactions, whereby the recipient, the buyer, is liable to pay the tax to the government. The supplier is not going to pay it. That is what is reverse charge. And reverse charge respective sections के अंदर defined as CGST Act section 93, 94, 95, whatever that, for the e-commerce operators, and IGST Act पे 53, 54, 55. All these reverse charge are there. Around 18 to 19 different entries for services notification पूरा define करता है. 2017 का notification, which is amended from time to time, and around 18 to 19 different entries are there. I'm not going to discuss all those entries over here because we are not having a topic of RCM, but internal audit perspective से हमें सब कुछ देखना जरूरी है. तो आप जब एक एक एक्सपेंसेस को गो थ्रू करेंगे, तो नेचुरली उसी वक्त आपको ये भी गो थ्रू करना है कि उस पे आरसीएम एप्लीकेबल है कि नहीं. तो एक्सपेंसेस की लिस्ट तो बहुत बड़ी है, जैसे लेबर चार्जेस हो गया, सिक्योरिटी चार्जेस हो गया, अकाउंटिंग चार्जेस हो गया, या बैंक चार्जेस हो गया, या प्रोफेशनल फीस पेड है, या डायरेक्टर्स रेम्यूनरेशन है, स्पॉन्सरशिप है, रेंटल पार्ट है, many things are there into the expenses. So then again, applicability of GST on a RCM basis, एक एक एक्सपेंस के ऊपर है या नहीं, तो वो आपको वो सेक्शन देखना है। आरसीएम क्या है ये तो हम बात कर ही चुके हैं, तो मैं इसमें वापस नहीं आ रहा हूँ बहुत ज्यादा, बट कुछ बेसिक टाइप ऑफ आरसीएम कवर करने की कोशिश की है, जो मेजॉरिटी बहुत लोगों को लागू है, बहुत लोगों को, आई एम सेइंग नॉट 100% बट टू मेनी. So in that case, GTA services is the one highly discussed and highly having many type of transactions whereby everyone are applicable. But then GTA, there are transactions whereby forward charge is also applicable. So while you are doing your internal audits and while you are verifying the purchases, परचेज के डॉक्यूमेंटेशन में मैंने बात की थी कि आपका परचेज ऑर्डर, आपके इनवॉइसेस जो सप्लायर ने दिए, साथ में गुड्स रिसीट नोट, और वो गुड्स रिसीट को मैचिंग में आपका जो ट्रांसपोर्ट एजेंसी ने जो कंसाइनमेंट नोट दिए, वो भी बहुत जरूरी है, यहाँ पे इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करेगा। अगर वो कंसाइनमेंट नोट पे लिखा है कि वो फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में, सामने वाले ने मींस जीटीए ने, ट्रांसपोर्टर ने फॉरवर्ड चार्ज ऑप्ट किया है, तो he would have already charged GST at the rate of 12% into this consignment. So in that case, you will be a person who is a recipient of that services and you can claim that ITC. क्योंकि जीटीए ने फॉरवर्ड चार्ज पे भरा है, लेकिन अगर जीटीए फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में नहीं है और वो रिवर्स चार्ज में आ रहा है, ही इज नॉट ऑप्टिंग फॉर फॉरवर्ड चार्ज, तो रिवर्स चार्ज में अगर है, तो फिर क्या आपका क्लाइंट रेसिपिएंट ऑफ दोज सर्विसेज है? Means you are paying the freight charges, the transport charges to that GTA. If you are paying that charges, then you are a recipient of those services. And if you are a recipient, then इस पे आरसीएम भरा कि नहीं भरा, बहुत जरूरी चीज। एट द टाइम ऑफ योर ऑडिट इटसेल्फ, दैट इज द वाउचिंग पार्ट, द चेकिंग ऑफ द डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, आप ये क्लासिफाई कर पाएंगे। बाद में वापस अगर आप पीछे से क्लासिफाई कर जाएंगे तो लेट रिपोर्टिंग्स तो फिर बाकी सब चीजें अगेन प्रोविजंस लागू हो जाती। सो अगेन दिस शुड नॉट हैपन. There are few type of RCM that I have covered, not all. Couple of those are over here. One of them is the legal services that many of the organizations might be availing. The legal services may be with regards to getting a loan, and that time you are having a search report under a particular act. You might be having some legal services relating to from an advocate regarding recovery of the dues from your client is having a recovery of dues from his कस्टमर पैसे नहीं दे, इसके लिए केस फाइल कर दिया, एंड अगेन लीगल सर्विसेज. देयर मे बी पार्टिशनिंग, और देयर मे बी एन नंबर ऑफ एक्टिविटीज फॉर व्हिच लीगल सर्विसेज आर बीइंग अवेलेबल. देन the supplier is the advocates as per the law, and then who is the recipient as a business entity who is located in a taxable territory. So again, your client, if located in this, fulfilling all those criteria, RCM is applicable. Sponsorship service, again, understand over here with regards to the recipient, and if the recipient, that is your client, is a partnership firm or a body corporate who is the recipient of the sponsorship service, then RCM is applicable. Director service, any payments that are made to a director. Now, what type of payment is being done? If a salary is being paid to a director, definitely it is not covered under RCM. Schedule 3 has already said employer-employee relationship, which is non-GST. But you are paying it, the director, as a remuneration to the director sitting fees, some remuneration for his activity. Then the company, the body corporate who is paying this remuneration will be liable for GST under RCM basis. You have insurance services, whereby the insurance agent is providing the services. So here the insurer, that is the companies, are liable to pay the GST and RCM. Arbitral tribunal, one of those. There are some services such as the security services, security personal services, which is covered under RCM. Recovery agent services, e-commerce operator को लगती बहुत सारी services है. So please do refer this particular as an internal auditor. आपका core area अगर internal audit है, तो RCM के लिए आप please डेफिनेटली ये पर्टिकुलर जो जीएसटी के अंदर सेक्शन 9(3) में दिए गए नोटिफिकेशन के अंदर सर्विसेज हैं या गुड्स बताए गए हैं, उनको गो थ्रू जरूर कीजिएगा। अगर आपके क्लाइंट को ये प्रोविजंस लागू हैं तो इसका टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा। टैक्स नहीं पे किया है, रह गया है, 16/4 की ड्यू डेट जा चुकी है और 2 साल बाद आप पे कर रहे हैं, असेसमेंट निकला और उसमें पे करना पड़ा, तो यार ये चीज का क्रेडिट भी एलिजिबल नहीं रहे। ऐसे सिचुएशंस नहीं आए, इसके लिए एज एन ऑडिटर प्लीज बी कॉशियस अबाउट ऑल सच टाइप ऑफ ट्रांजैक्शंस. 9(4) again defines some type of transactions whereby 9(4) says that if the supplier is not registered and there are some specific type of supplies to a registered person, that is the recipient is registered, then the reverse charge would be applicable. Few of them, like the cashew nuts which are shelled or not shelled or peeled, and supplier is the agriculturist but the recipient is a registered person, RCM is applicable. Silk yarn, raw cotton. Raw cotton, if you're purchasing from an agriculturist and the recipient is a registered person. In case of those ginning pressing factories, the pressing, all those things in cases of these traders, what we can say the medical cotton, that is the absorbent cotton, whereby they are purchasing the cotton from the agriculturist or the such type of organization persons, then definitely RCM would be applicable. Used vehicles, confiscated goods, old used goods, scrap, all such type of things where the supplier is the government and recipient is any registered person. Then also RCM is applicable. Uh, there is RCM one more situation in case of the builders and the developers, whereby if you are auditing, internal auditing, and your client is a builder and a developer, please make sure that the expenses that are being incurred relating to the execution of that, the construction of that building or the works contract, then 80% of your purchases or the inputs should be from registered suppliers. If not, if there's a shortfall, again there's an RCM applicable and you are liable to pay the GST under section 9(4) at a flat rate of 18%, excluding the cement, on which the builder will be liable to pay the RCM at the rate of 28% for those cement part. बट अगेन ये सब एप्लीकेबल कब होगा, जब आप 80% से भी अंदर अगर आप रजिस्टर्ड बायर सप्लायर से बाय नहीं करेंगे तो ये भी एक आरसीएम का पॉइंट है। ऐसे आरसीएम के पॉइंट्स सेल्स साइड में, अगर आपका आरसीएम मीन्स आपका क्लाइंट अगर एक ट्रांसपोर्ट कंपनी, एक एग्जांपल ले रहा हूं, तो नेचुरली आपका सेल्स आपने आरसीएम ऑप्ट किया तो यू आर नॉट लाइबल फॉर एनी लाइबिलिटी, तो आपका कस्टमर उसके ऊपर आरसीएम भरने वाला है, तो ये चेक करना है। कौन से ट्रांजैक्शन उसमें एग्जम्प्टेड है वो देखना जरूरी है। एग्जम्पशन के नोटिफिकेशंस बहुत बड़ा है एंड एन नंबर ऑफ सर्विसेज और द गुड्स आर बीइंग कवर्ड अंडर एग्जम्पशन लिस्ट। तो मैं पहले ही बात कर चुका हूं कि आप जब आपका आउटवर्ड सप्लाई को रिकंसाइल करेंगे तब प्लीज देखिएगा कि आपका सप्लाई, क्लाइंट का जो सप्लाई है, दैट इज नॉट कवर्ड अंडर एग्जम्पशन लिस्ट ऑन। इफ एग्जम्प्टेड एज पर द एग्जम्पशन नोटिफिकेशन, ग्रेट, देन आईटीसी की भी बात नहीं है, तो वो सब चीजें भी ध्यान रखना है। प्लीज टेक केयर ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स. Try to summarize all my content, then we'll have the query session in next 5 minutes. I'll just summarize. So what I tried to say that for internal audit, and once you are completing your books of accounts for the previous financial year, please verify that you are having all the document tax invoices that are being issued to all the type of transactions. Those are reported into the GST return. Various invoices relating to inter-branch transfer, that is distinct person का एक पार्ट जो था, जो वो भी अगर सेल में कवर हो सकता है आउटवर्ड सप्लाई में। रिकंसिलिएशन में आपके डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन का रिपोर्टिंग आएगा। अगर मल्टीपल ब्रांचेस है और डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन है तो नेचुरली जीएसटी के अंदर दैट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ आउटवर्ड सप्लाई, whereby you are liable to inter-branch transfer with separate GST numbers, then you are liable to issue an invoice as per GST, but as per income tax that is not the same because the PAN number is the same. स्टॉक ट्रांसफर ही अगर हो रहा है ब्रांच में जहां पे सेम जीएसटी नंबर है तो डिलीवरी चलान्स प्रॉपरली इशू की गई है या नहीं, पेमेंट्स जो है प्रॉपरली टैक्स इनवॉइस के साथ मैप अप किया जाए, and if not, ensure that the receipt vouchers are being issued for advance payments. तो वो receipt voucher की बात आएगी. ट्रांजैक्शंस को क्रॉस चेक करके लीजिए बैंकिंग स्टेटमेंट्स के साथ, और एजिंग रिपोर्ट्स बहुत जरूरी काम में आती है इसमें, क्योंकि एजिंग रिपोर्ट 180 डेज के कैलकुलेशन में काम में आ जाएगी. तो वो एक पार्ट है. देन ई वे बिल का बात मैं कर चुका हूँ कि अगर एप्लीकेबल है तो ई वे बिल बनाना जरूरी है. नेचुरली 50,000 के ऊपर का अगर आपका ट्रांजैक्शन वैल्यू है और इंटर स्टेट व्यवहार है तो ई वे बिल इज एप्लीकेबल. जॉब वर्क के लिए तो विद इन टाइम रिवर्ट हुआ है कि नहीं, HSN कोड्स बरोबर है कि नहीं, मिक्स सप्लाई है तो मिक्स सप्लाई आपके प्रोडक्ट क्लासिफाई कर लीजिए, और फिर हाईएस्ट रेट पे आपने बरोबर वो उस पे मिक्स सप्लाई में से जो एक प्रोडक्ट जिसको हाईएस्ट रेट रहेगा उस हिसाब से आपका टैक्सेशन हुआ है. HSN की बात मैंने करेक्टली कही है तो नेचुरली उसके हिसाब से टैक्स रेट भी करेक्टली लगा है कि नहीं लगा है. इन केस ऑफ सिचुएशंस रिफंड वाउचर्स आर बीइंग प्रॉपर्ली इशूड और नॉट. All the GST returns are being timely filed or not till 31st March, ये रिकंसाइल कर लीजिए. फिक्स्ड एसेट्स की बात मैं पहले ही कर चुका हूँ कि कैपिटलाइज हुआ है, जीएसटी नहीं हुआ है, उसके क्रेडिट्स 60 मंथ्स का क्राइटेरिया आईटीसी रिवर्सल के लिए एप्लीकेबल, ये सब कुछ जस्ट ब्रीफ. देन रिकंसिलेशंस पहली बात कर चुका हूँ, उसकी लगती नोटिसेस, वो भी सब चीजें हैं. तो प्लीज डू टेक केयर ऑफ all those things. Input tax credit के provisions, many things are there. And finally, what I would say that ensure that there is no difference between the data shared and filed with various departments with regards to the income tax, that is tax audits, the ROC filings, that is the statutory audits in which the P&L, the balance sheet and everything would be reported, the foreign trade and all the other reportings wherever needed, wherever you need to file the profit and loss account. Please take care that the GST returns are being reconciled properly. Even many a times now we see that banks, while issuing the loans, they are even asking for the GST data, the GST returns that are being filed. Many a times for higher loans, banks are verifying the GST returns, outward sales that you are filing, and your income tax, the sales that is reported into the balance sheet, the projected sales that you are telling. So everything is being matched. Many a time you are giving a provisional balance sheet while claiming the loans, and provisional balance sheet for financial 23-24 is given, and you say a particular sale value. For example, you say that my sale was 50 crores, 100 crores, and your GST returns are not reporting accordingly. Then also you will come into problem that your loan may get blocked or it would not be sanctioned. तो ऐसे बहुत सारी चीजें आएंगी जो एज एन इंटरनल ऑडिटर हमें पहले ही चेक करके ले लेना है. हमें हमारे रिस्पेक्टिव मैनेजमेंट को पहले ये बता के देना है ताकि ये सारे क्वेरीज पहले सॉल्व हो जाए और आगे के कंप्लायंसेस में कहीं पे भी आपको नोटिसेस ना आए. नोटिसेस नहीं आएंगे तो यू आर हैप्पी, अदरवाइज कंप्लायंसेस करते रहो, ऐसा पार्ट है. दीज ऑल थिंग्स आर बीइंग गिवन ओवर देयर. This is what from my side. I would request the organizing part, Amish sir, Pankaj sir, to please take over, and any queries, if any, please do. We'll have the discussion for those. Amish sir, Pankaj
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, actually, there is no query. Sir, your presentation was excellent of the today's lecture, and you had covered all the things in details like availability of ITC, sale of good, auto-generated notice, summary, RCM. I think so. All gamut of ITC has been covered by you,
Thank you,
and
sir.
you had also gone through very fine points where we have to take a utmost care. Because nowadays system is catching such a small mismatch also of 1 rupee also they are sending a notice.
Definitely, sir.
So like this is the main, I can say the ITC is the villain or a main crux for whole GST scrutiny assessment and everything. So finally I'm honored to be the to give the opportunity and propose the vote of thanks to CA Kevur as DDR. I, on behalf of Board of Internal Audit and Management Accounting Committee, propose the vote of thanks for his kind and thought-provoking address. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kevir bhai.
Thank you, sir. Definitely, if anyone has a query, I have shared my number also. Please, you can raise your queries also. We can have a talk.
Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to the
Thank
entire
you.
committee for giving this opportunity.
We can close, sir.
Yeah.
Mhm.